Hello, good morning, and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm the home cook, hot mess Mark Frechette.
And I'm Scott Guerin, the research and development chef here at Modernist Pantry.
And today we're going to talk about the voodoo that Mooglu do with meats. That wasn't in rehearsal.
No,
okay.
Was totally not expecting that, yeah.
Yeah, so today, normally we come in, last time you remember, we talked about bacon, the time before that we talked about cheese, and if you're looking for any of those videos after this episode, be sure to check us out on Facebook or on YouTube, and you'll find those old episodes. Today we're talking about a specific ingredient. I've always known it as meat glue because the real name is super hard to say.
So transglutaminase is what we're talking about today, and we have three types that we're going to cover. And what it basically does, it takes two different types of proteins and it bonds them together. Those proteins are glutamine and lysine. So it doesn't actually glue, so there isn't a stickiness to it, but it's almost like a weld. It takes the protein in the meat that you're using or the protein that you're using and just bonds them together.
So it's pretty much, we'll talk about the kinds of proteins in a bit, but of course, those of you watching, you can see so we've got some examples here of it in use. Can you kind of walk us through a few of these?
Yeah, absolutely. So I took two chicken breasts, I put them together, and it's a very nice, like light sprinkle of transglutaminase over the top of the meat. If you were making something ground, it would be 0.5% of the total weight of the meat. So it's a very small amount that you're using. And then I put them together and I wrap them overnight. This is just an example, and I have a glove on to show you. This is two pieces of meat, and you can see it's almost seamless here.
Can we hold it up to the camera?
Absolutely, I'll hold it up to the...
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it looks like one solid piece of meat.
Yeah.
I wrap it in the skin of, in instance, this is chicken.
Sure.
And I just cook it in the oven until it's nice and golden brown, and then you get these beautiful medallions out of the chicken breast, and you don't have any waste.
That's fantastic. So, what is well, it's also known as TG. So what is TG?
So transglutaminase, TG, or meat glue, if you will, is just an enzyme that's naturally occurring in, it could be from blood, which this isn't. It could be from plants, or it could be from microbial, so a growing of...
So like a fermentation kind of thing.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so this one is not animal sourced.
None of these are animal sourced. The RM and the GS do have some proteins in them. So sodium caseinate is in the RM. It's just a helper protein. What that does is that it's a mediator between the two proteins. It brings them together. So then we have gelatin in the GS, and that's also a helper protein. The difference between these two is this one you can apply dry, or you can make a slurry. So it's a 4-to-1 ratio of water to the TG in the RM. The GS needs to be made into a slurry.
Okay. And if we explained sprinkle real quick or whatever, but if you're looking to see that in action after this video, be sure to go to our YouTube channel or our blog at blog.modernistpantry.com. We've just posted a video there showing bacon-wrapped scallops that does include a little bit of Mooglu.
Yeah, absolutely.
So bring us through a few of the other uses that you have for Mooglu out here. These are exciting.
So the best uses I find are just ones that keep from having waste or having inconsistent product. We'll start with the chicken. The reason why I took those two breasts is that chicken breast is tapered at one end, and that little bit of the thinnest part is always going to get overcooked. Sure. So if you put them together and it's adhered to the thickest part, then you'll have a nice even cook on the chicken, as you can see here.
Yeah.
What I did with this is black beans and a little bit of soy milk powder. And I made a nice puree of it, and then I added some transglutaminase TI. Even sometimes I have an issue with it.
It's a tricky one.
We'll call it Mooglu or TG from now on. But I added this to it, and I wrapped it real tight, and I left it in the refrigerator overnight, and then just kind of poached it this morning. And now I can slice it. I can have beautiful medallions that I can put on a burger bun, especially for tomorrow, because it's...
Yeah. Well, and it's so hard to find... all of these are really impressive, but especially in veggie burgers, it's so hard to find a veggie burger recipe or ingredient that'll actually stick it together. And we do have Mooglu that can do that, but we've also got the Mooglu TI, which I believe is the one that has no animal product.
No animal product in it at all. So it's transglutaminase and then maltodextrin, which just keeps it nice and free-flowing. One thing about these all, except for the GS, is they need to be kept either in the refrigerator or in the freezer. I find it best just toss it in the freezer. It takes up less space in there, and it's out of the way. That way it doesn't become inactivated.
Sure. Now, a little bit goes a long way. The red package that we have at the end there, that's the RM, right?
Yep.
We've got the home size of it, that's 50 grams for $12.99. And then we've got the 500 gram for $44.99 if you're really going to be using a lot of it. And of course, for restaurants and food service, we do have it up to 1 kilogram. Call us if you need it. It's $79.99. So yeah, it's
memory.
Thank you. So it's fairly affordable. It's actually really affordable for what it does. And we've talked about it in some really interesting culinary uses. But when you and I were chatting, you had also mentioned it can help reduce some of that kitchen waste, right?
Yeah, that's the best part is if you have a big tenderloin, we'll say tenderloin of beef for this, you always have that really thin end on it, the tapered end. That you can cut and you can adhere it to another piece so you get even portions all the way through. Better use. Some people would take that and make it into either carpaccio or tartare, but if you need to have it for another portion of tenderloin, then you absolutely can there.
One of the things I thought was neat was when we were actually putting together this is the most teased recipe we've had in any of these episodes. We were actually putting together the bacon and scallop recipe. Yeah. You did something kind of tricky there. It's not tricky, but the ingredients call for 4 scallops, and it makes 5 to 6 servings.
Yeah, so each scallop obviously is slightly angled on one side. So you take them, you put them together, and I make almost like a super scallop of 4 end
Das
to end.
Scallop.
Yeah. And then I wrap it in 5 strips of bacon that you can find the bacon recipe also at blog.modernistpantry.com.
The ultimate DIY.
So then I wrap it, and when you cut it, you don't have to cut it, obviously, into 4. You could if you wanted to, but you can cut it all the way down into 8 if you really wanted to. So it's half a scallop per portion. Throw them on some lollipop sticks, and you've got a great hors d'oeuvre that kind of spices up the old-fashioned scallops wrapped in bacon.
Yeah, and what I like about that recipe in particular is visually, it's not the Hellraiser of toothpicks. Like, it's not picked 38 times. So it's not the end, but at the same time, it's not falling apart, because I've seen people make it without the help of this and without the toothpicks, and it tends to just kind of like the bacon comes off the shoulder a bit.
Yeah, it's barely just draped on top of the scallop.
Yeah, and this is like a really nice held together a little medallion of awesomeness. You've got to go check it out, but not now, because you're busy watching this.
And I do have one thing to say. With bacon has a lot of fat.
Yeah.
So you need to have protein on protein contact. The fat will try to adhere, but there's so much fat, it's a pure fat right there. So you need to make sure that you have part of the bacon that is protein touching the protein of the scallop.
Absolutely. So there's a bunch of different kinds. We talked about how, that one's got the helper protein, that one's got the gelatin, this one's got the... How do I know which one to use for which case?
So we'll get the TI out of the way. If you're trying to make something vegetarian or vegan, go with the TI. It has twice the amount of transglutaminase enzyme in it, so it will do its best to bond any proteins, the glutamine and lysine that you have in items. The reason why it has extra is that it will not bond as many as the RM and the GS, just because it doesn't have that helper protein. Will it work? Yes, but it won't work as well as these two. The main one you want to go to if you're doing any meats, go with RM. The reason why we go with RM, it's the base. It has the helper sodium caseinate, and you put it right in there, and it just bonds it right together, and it's very, very easy to use. The reason why you would use GS is if you don't want to keep it in the freezer, or you're going to have it out and you're doing a lot of production, you can leave it on the counter indefinitely, because that gelatin and there's a phosphate salt in it that keeps it nice and active at room temperature.
So lots of great uses, but for the most part, unless you're intentionally preparing something to be completely plant-based, go with the RM. The RM's vegetarian friendly anyways, and seems like the best overall fit, right?
Yeah, that's the base one. Anyone who comes to me and asks which one should I get, I always steer them right towards the RM unless they have some specific need.
So here on WTF, where we transform food, we've got the speed round, which is what's the food? And we always ask, what's the food made better? What's the food made easier to prep? And what's the food that we can make new or more exciting or more interesting? I think we've kind of beaten my vote is we've beaten the what's the food made better over the head about 138 times.
I do have some more things to say about it, though.
Okay.
Some people will hear that you're gluing pieces of meat
mix
together, and I don't want people to think that you can glue 150 pieces of meat together, especially small little tidbits, and have a good product. You just have a Frankenstein product at that point. I wouldn't suggest doing that. Could you? Yes.
I think I was served that as a child.
Yeah, I wouldn't. But any product that you can save money on and not have to waste anything, that is the food made better at this point.
So, and there's a lot of people who are kind of, because when I was doing the research about it, this is not a scary product when you learn about it, but it's scary when you read some of the weird esoteric claims, to the point where I came in this morning and I was like, hey, for the show, can I just glue my lips together? And he said, that's a great idea, but it won't work.
Yes.
So
if you tried to glue your lips together, you could just easily pull them right apart because it would just be sticky at that point. It would take a number of hours and more exposed protein than what you have on the outside of your lips. Also, some people think, is it going to glue my fingers together? If I inhale it, will my lungs adhere and then...
Because this is mostly protein.
Yes.
Lots of fat, a little bit of bone, but protein.
It's not to the point where it is super glue, which we could make super moo glue. But that's probably about 50 years down the line.
Chris, get on that.
Yeah. But so don't be nervous about that. And another one is it's made from pig's blood is something that's always been told. But there's other ways to find transglutaminase in nature.
So that's one where it's definitely know your source if the sourcing's important to you and you don't want it to be. Ironically, if you don't want it to be animal-based, it is the one with the cow on the label, moo glue, but you might not get that if you get
happy,
it from,
friendly cow.
I know, I do love him. But you might not get that always, so make sure you choose a reputable source. We're kind of biased to modernistpantry.com. And so it doesn't seem like it's as scary as it sounds. It can technically glue things together, but it takes a wicked long time to set.
Yes.
And like most ingredients, you probably don't want to huff it in large quantities, but that's true for water.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not as scary as it makes it sound, and definitely something worth getting to play with. On the weird scale, and we didn't talk about this, when you said Frankenstein, could you add extra drumsticks to a chicken or something?
Yeah, as long as you have exposed, protein on protein contact, it would take a little while, but you could absolutely do that.
There's a lot of professional chefs going, why would you do that? And then there's a lot of home grillers right now be like, oh my God, this is going to be great. Can I get it for tomorrow? So you can have a lot of fun with it, but it's got some good legitimate uses. What's the food that this makes better?
So better is a funny thing because this is so easy to use. And like I said, I kind of breezed over it, but it's just a light sprinkle, a dusting even. So if you have a sifter and you put some in there and you just get a nice dusting on that chicken, you don't have to worry about measuring the weight of the chicken and then the weight. As long as it's not coating and you can't see any meat anymore, you're good because it needs that moisture and that contact. But something that I like that's better, and we kind of talked about this before, I made a duck burger once.
Yes!
And I took the protein of the duck, and duck doesn't have too much on it. It's got the legs and the breast. But I wanted to make a nice duck burger, and I wanted a high fat content. So I mixed this in with my duck mousseline, which is just a puree pretty much of the meat. And I mixed this in, and then I added a lot of fat, about 50-50 fat to meat.
Oh my God.
And as long as the proteins are touching, you can create a network where the fat is held in really nice. So I would like to do more experimenting with sausage making and items like that, so you can really hold the fat in so you can get a nice snap on it. And I did a bad snap there. A nice snap on it there. And
it's hot and
you can get a really juicy product, and it may keep it better if people are grilling or then boiling, doing all sorts of things. You get a better product that way.
Outstanding. We talked a little bit about prep, but what are a few, especially for the commercial kitchen, for restaurants, what are a few tricks that you really got to bring this in that this can make prep easier, more reliable, or even less waste?
Yeah, less waste is definitely the one to go to.
Yeah.
More consistent products. Like I have my chicken here. It's 2 chicken breasts, and I can get 4 portions out of it.
Yeah.
That's double the amount of money that's coming in.
Sure.
So those are the things that we can look at, and it has so many uses. Say if you have a piece of meat and someone opens the package and they make a big slit down the side of it and you need a beautiful steak out of it, you can throw some on there. It'll keep it together enough to where when you grill it and whatnot, it may separate after if it gets too hot, if it's well done, something like that. But if you're just doing a beautiful steak that's medium rare, then you'll have a nice, even looking portion. So there's a lot of little uses and tricks that you can do with this.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to throw out about transglutaminase?
Nailed it! I think we covered pretty much everything that we talked about and we wanted to talk about. But if there are any questions, you can just leave them in the comments below, and we'll do our best to answer every single one of them.
Outstanding. And those comments, by the way, are whether you're watching this at YouTube or on Facebook. So if you want to experiment with some moo glue yourself, you can buy it. It's very affordable. The home size starts at $12.99 at modernistpantry.com. If you want to learn more about how to use it, we've got that recipe that we've mentioned. You might have heard about it a little bit today, the bacon wrapped scallops. That's live at blog.modernistpantry.com, or if you go to modernistpantry.com, you'll see it up in the little recipes button right about there, and that'll take you right to the latest recipes. Wherever you're watching this, if you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below so we know what episodes you want to see in the future. I think moo glue is a pretty exciting thing to play around with.
Absolutely.
Hey, if you're looking for more ideas, we do record this live, so if you're live, this section's going to be a little awkward. Cole, could you go to the top down? Thank you so much. All right, so hey, if you're watching this live, this won't work for you. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see a few videos out here. These are previous episodes of WTF. Be sure to click one of those to catch up, whether you're looking at cheese, which I think I'll put somewhere around here, or you're looking at our Make and Bacon episode. That'll probably go somewhere around here. Thank you all so much for joining us here on WTF, where we transform food here at the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen.